very excited to welcome you to the official opening of our inaugural CEMS Global Alumni Week 2006, brought to you by the CEMS Student Board and CEMS Alumni Association and our CEMS Alumni of the Year 2015, Christian Mischler. So we're very excited because this is the first time ever that we have a Global Alumni Week. We have 22 events, as you can see here on this slide, and amazing what our community can do in such a time to make this happen. So, of course, a thanks to all CEMS students and our alumni, our corporate partners, and our academic members for your organization. Of course, you can imagine that a Global Alumni Week across 19 countries is a huge effort. Since 2013, the Alumni Association and the CEMS Student Board have an official cooperation, and this is one of the projects that came to fruition due to this. So from idea to reality, you can see on the night everyone who has been involved at the Student Board side. Cristiano has been our lead this year for the Global Alumni Week, coordinating everything with the rest of his team, and Federico Ferolfi, the team lead of the Alumni Relations team in the Student Board. I just want to take you a little bit through what the alumni community is today and the Alumni Association before I introduce you to our speaker. We're close to 11,000 alumni this year. We reached the milestone of 10,000 plus alumni last annual event, graduation in St. Petersburg. Very exciting. We're a growing community, a lively community, and we work at different places around the world. If we look at our corporate partners and companies around the world, McKinsey, Google, L'Oreal, Boston Consulting Group, and Henkel are amongst our top employers. And of course, we have a lot of CEMS alumni who become entrepreneurs, and some of them very successful, like our speaker today. A little bit an idea of the CEMS Alumni Association. We were founded in 1993. We're 23 years old today. We were founded to actually offer the group of alumni a lifelong experience, promote and strengthen the CEMS brand and network, and attract new excellent students. We've been a volunteer-based nonprofit organization for many, many years, actually 20 years. And we started a professionalization because our community is growing and we have much more senior alumni. So the executive board of CEMS identified alumni as a major underutilized and unique branding opportunity in 2010. They approved a 5-year plan, actually hiring a director. So in 2012, there was the idea that we should have a larger board, more committees to manage 200 volunteers globally. And we're reaching the 300 plus volunteers, global volunteers this year. So the new board was elected in 2012. I was hired in 2013. We hired an executive assistant in 2014. In 2015, it was a very exciting year for us. The CEMS Strategic Board announced that CEMS alumni are from now on 1 out of 5 strategic priorities for CEMS. And as well, there was an increased investment into CEMS alumni. So you can see here a global team. Just for those of you who are interested specifically for the alumni, in 2016, we have new elections upcoming for global board members and committee members. Today, we have 31 local chapters. This has been a growth of 17 new local chapters in the past 2 years alone. And what we see is an increasing interest to actually communicate and network within CEMS based on industry preference and interest. So CEMS entrepreneurs is our largest interest group or professional group. We have a CEMS Foreign Humanitarian Development Affairs group, M&A private equity group, Aranas group, and we're currently looking at setting up a CEMS Business Development group and a CEMS PhD group. If we look at some of the activities, there are many. I will just take you to some highlights at this webinar. We organize around 250 plus events around the world per year. An important one is the CEMS Waltzing Days. It's for the 14th year that we've done this. And for example, Switzerland organized in cooperation with Deloitte, our CEMS corporate partner, the conference, The Digital Revolution. ABB, McKinsey, Deloitte and Google have been sponsoring events, or the CEMS Alumni Association in the past 2 years. And we're very kindly thanking them for the opportunities that they offer us and the community. We've launched an exclusive mentoring platform. So if you're not aware yet, write to us. We will make sure that you are on board. And we reached a great branding, because that was one of the executive board requests to us, to do through alumni branding on social media, to really let the CEMS brand speak in the world, and also to new students. If you want to learn more, we're launching a new website this year. So we also have a monthly newsletter. If your email is up to date in the database, you will receive it. So I won't let you wait longer for the most exciting part of this webinar. The CEMS Alum of the year 2015. I've been following Christian Mischler for quite some time, very impressed by all the achievements that he has. So Christian will tell a lot, hopefully, about his path from studying in CEMS to where he is today. So without further ado, I would really like to introduce you to the next speaker, Christian Mischler. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for this introduction, Wieteke, and I'm really honored to have the opportunity. I've been given the opportunity to speak today in front of CEMS alumni, and I value CEMS a lot as a network, and it's been a tremendous value add for me in my life, in academic life and professional life. So I'm super excited not only to have received the title of the CEMS Alumnus of the year 2015, but also to have been given the opportunity for this webinar. So I'm just going to flick over here to my presentation. I hope this worked now, and you guys can see this. I don't know, Wieteke, maybe just if you can thumbs up.
I see it. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
All right, very good. So I would like to have this a little bit interactive, if ever possible, and we're going to have some time at the end of the webinar to answer some questions. So you see my Twitter handle there. So if you have any questions or anything, hopefully you either agree with what I'm saying today, or you disagree, because then you have an opinion, and hopefully it's sort of value, because it triggers some thoughts. Send a tweet. I know that also Cristiano of the CEMS alumni team will also then review sort of the tweets and tag me in them, and then we can pick them up towards the end of this webinar. So just without further ado, I'm just gonna start with sort of giving you a background on myself, and I want to start with what I title as career, and I later on in the presentation also come to sort of the fun stuff, but the career is basically what most people probably would say. This is sort of a logical sequence of steps in one sort of development. And I was born in Switzerland. I grew up very close to Zurich in a very rural town. It's probably 700 people living there, about maybe 1,000 cows also living there. So it's a very rural town, great for childhood. There was, you can play out in the nature. My parents, both teacher, my grandparents teacher, my sister a physician. So no one had no business understanding whatsoever. So I decided to go to high school with a major in business, maybe because no one else is doing it. And so I had a major in business and law, and then graduated from high school. Had to go to the army. In Switzerland, it's compulsory that you go to the army, and spent my boot camp there, and I hated it. But I was forced then to progress. So in Switzerland, you can get forced to the next rank, and usually, if there's not enough volunteers to become sergeant, they force the high school graduate to become sergeant as well. So that's what they did with me, and so I had to go to sergeant school and became a group leader. And suddenly I started to kind of like it. Because no longer I was just the lowest in the hierarchy and had to sort of execute on whatever orders came down the ranks, and suddenly I had a group, and I could work with a team and sort of contribute to the success of the mission that we had to fulfill. So because of this positive experience, I then decided to continue and enrolled in the officer school. Then thereafter became platoon leader and had then my platoon of about 40 to 50 people. And was leading them basically every year. I have to go back to the army and lead your platoon for 3 to 4 weeks. which is great experience. Something that probably no, when you're like in the early 20s, you have no other opportunity like this, so they can really lead a team of 40, 50 people, 24 hours a day for 7 days a week. So it was a great experience. During my practical service as a platoon leader, I also then made friends with the other platoon leaders, and one of them was already done with his studies and started to work at Credit Suisse. And he entered the corporate development department, and we kept in touch, and he kept on telling me all these great stories of the growth projects and the post-merger integrations and his starting salary and his starting bonus. And I was like, wow, that sounds so amazing. It was 2004, 5, 6, it was the fat golden banking days. So it's like, okay, once I graduate then from university, I will also apply for this job. It sounds really fun. So that's what I did. I enrolled at the University of St. Gallen, undergrad, normal bachelor's in business administration. Then had a gap year after bachelor's. I did some internships in Germany in T-Mobile business marketing, and in Switzerland in corporate finance. Later on, then also an internship in Sweden in business development. Then went back to University of St. Gallen to study banking and finance, sort of in preparation for my anticipated start at Credit Suisse. And then also CEMS, which was my home university, was St. Gallen, and Rotterdam RSM was my host university. And 2 years later, then I graduated from HSG and from CEMS. And then the financial crisis was already in full swing, and suddenly everything didn't look that nice anymore. Starting salaries came down, the boni, didn't get paid anymore, and I was like, okay, shall I really apply for a banking job, or should I just go into entrepreneurship, which I was actually a lot more excited about. But I told myself, okay, I so many years back, I told myself that I will apply for a job at Credit Suisse corporate development. So why not give it a shot? And if they don't take me, then at least I can say I tried, and it didn't work out. And they're kind of picky, so you have to go through 7 interviews. All of the 7 interviewers have to say yes. If only one says no, then you wouldn't get an offer. So that's what I did. I applied for Credit Suisse as my only application, sort of expecting not to be taken, but they made an offer. So I was like, okay, now I have an offer, so I should do it. So I stayed for 2 years, a bit more than 2 years at Credit Suisse, until then Rocket Internet rescued me. It was a great experience at Credit Suisse, but I was really excited to get a call from Rocket Internet as well. And they offered me to become co-founder of their latest venture called Foodpanda. Back then it was the latest venture, so it's basically a food delivery company. Some of you might know Grubhub or Just Eat. So it's the same concept where you have a list of a lot of restaurants, and then you can order any kind of food and you get that food delivered. They had this idea of launching this in Southeast Asia. They offered me 1 out of 5 countries in Southeast Asia, of which then I picked Thailand, and started it first in Thailand. It then quickly became the leading country within Foodpanda, and was in global COO and CTO of Foodpanda. Was officially based in Singapore, lived still in Thailand, so I spent sort of my weekdays in Singapore. Was line manager of the team in Vietnam and Colombia in Latin America, and my IT team was in Portugal. So I was traveling a lot as well, and because I was traveling a lot, I wanted to have something where I could book faster. I could book spontaneously, last minute, get a discount because I was traveling with an allowance, which the allowance was great in Vietnam, but not so great in Singapore, for instance. So I want to have something where I can book spontaneously, last minute, get a discount, and with that can sort of upgrade my stay. And this is then how I founded HotelQuickly, which is exactly that concept. So HotelQuickly is now we launched 3 years ago in 6 countries in Asia. So in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. And we expanded fairly quickly since then. We're now in 16 countries. We just recently acquired a company in Japan called Tonight. We're now still in the post-merger integration. We cover 250 destinations, work with more than 12,000 partner hotels, mostly of the 3, 4, and the 5-star category. We have about 2.5 million downloads, about 1.5 million registered accounts, and also the team is growing. So it's more than 100 people already in 9 offices, and we still have a bunch of open positions. Actually, I'm currently sitting in our head office. So this is our biggest office in Bangkok. It's just now it's kind of past time, so they already went down for a beer. But Bangkok is our biggest office. We also raised some money, so officially we raised a bit more than 5 million so far. We are currently in our Series B. We have a good lead investor already secured, and we're currently in negotiation with the co-investor. So we hope to close that round in the next couple of months, and continue to grow. So we wanna still have a footprint in Asia Pacific. We believe this is the most attractive market for our business concept. It's growth on every corner, and you can sort of ride the wave. By the way, if you download the app now and enter the voucher code CEMS15 in the application, you get an extra 15% discount. So if you happen to be based in Asia Pacific, or you happen to travel to the region anytime soon, then accuse of this extra 15% discount. It's actually the value proposition. We're always cheaper than anywhere else. We're always cheaper than Booking.com, Expedia, Agoda, etc. So on average, we're more than 20% cheaper because we're last minute. And with the CEMS15, you get an extra 15% discount. So now, as I mentioned already before, so this was the what I previously showed, this sort of the career. But what is maybe more interesting is the fun stuff that I did aside of following sort of step by step along this career path, which is I started my first company when I was 16 in high school, called Lerta, which was a very small IT company. And together with a high school friend of mine, we created websites, and we sold these websites completely overpriced to small and medium enterprises. Was a great way to make some extra money and to finance a high school, but it didn't take too long for these SMEs to realize that they're paying too much, and so we had to pivot. And so we went into hosting, but everybody knows that hosting is also not a very good vertical. So we went into housing, server housing, and voice over IP, and that is still okay. It's still around America. It's super tiny. It's actually not even worth mentioning, but it's sort of my first entrepreneurial experience, and we hold on to it for the sentimental value, but it's not very profitable. The next company that I founded was in first year university, when I was freshman at the University of St. Gallen, called CAA, and I guess if anyone from St. Gallen is dialing in, then should be familiar probably with the product. So it's CAA is short for Karteikarten, which is flashcards in English. And what we did is basically we summarized the main subjects at the university, which was economy, business, and law, onto flashcards. And originally, it wasn't even a business idea. It was a study group, and we had 3 subjects. So with a friend of mine from the army and a friend of mine with whom I was at high school, we formed this study group of 3, and each one of us summarized one subject. And then our friends approached us towards the end of the term, and were like, "Hey, you already have everything on computer, and can we just have a printout?" And social as we are, we told them, yes, you can. But business students as we were, we also told them, yeah, but you have to pay us something for it. So we developed a business out of it, and sort of overnight we made a few thousand Swiss francs in revenues, completely unexpected. And we thought, okay, that's actually a pretty cool business idea. And we kept on doing it the next term and the year after, and we started to expand then to other universities in Switzerland. And so long story short, by now it's one of the largest publishing houses in Switzerland in the educational sector, and it's doing quite all right. We also offer now different products, so it's also seminars, and it's folders and summaries, and we have apps for Android and iOS, and so it's all sorts of different products, but still the base principle remained the same of like helping students get through their exams and take away a little bit of the pressure in the exam preparation. Hopefully, help to reduce the dropout rate at the universities. So the next one was in mind prep. So I after CAA I invested personally into a similar company that was focusing on the graduate education and apprentices, and I then merged CAA with that other company, and we created Mind Prep out of that. So Mind Prep is the company name that is still around. And thereafter, U Ventures started a company called Nova Global. And if anyone from the Scandinavian countries dialing in, then you might be familiar with Nova 100, which is sort of an offline jobs fair. They also have online events and webinars for sort of the best students at these universities in Scandinavia, and they sort of match make with companies, and it's sort of like a curated list of potential candidates for companies to hire. So it's a good play. We tried to bring that online called Nova Global, and it was also funded with $1 million, but that didn't work out. So we, 3 years later, the company folded. We probably didn't think it through properly enough because if you have the top graduate from the top business school and you want to matchmake them with the top job at the most exclusive company, it's really, really small target market, and no one needs matchmaking on that level because both have enough candidates, right? The top graduate has enough jobs to pick from, and the top or the most exclusive jobs, they have enough applicants as well. So it's a really tricky business model, and we thought it could be good, but it wasn't. So the next one we started was the Swiss Founders Fund, and it's basically together with one partner. We've packed our startups that we started until that day under that umbrella, and instead of paying ourselves big salaries that we anyways don't need, we take these revenues and invest into startups. And we invested into a couple of startups. For instance, Timebay, it's basically a diapers.com equivalent in Vietnam. We're just now closing a round of a startup in Singapore. We also started a couple of businesses ourselves, for instance, in Europe, with Simply, which is a student driver app, or there's Talendo, which is a job platform. Kingfluencer is a social influencer platform. We just recently invested into Leggy, which is actually taking off really nicely in Switzerland, which is a students benefit platform where you get as a student you get extra discounts and for companies to basically get access to students. So it's we invest through that Swiss Founders Fund. We invest into new companies and incubate them as well. Usually seed at early stage. We can't really afford to do a Series A or Series B, but it's been a good vehicle in the past few years to be able to start more than what we can just do ourselves. So now you might ask yourself, okay, what's the common denominator? That sounds like it's a huge patchwork of different things, and I agree, it is. And I'm not saying it's sort of a because I had friends at university. They were like all their internships were leading up to that M&A entry job, and they were like doing internships in M&A boutiques, and everything was so like straightforward. At least that's how it looked to me. I don't have that. I think I'm just like I have too many different interests that are sort of non-aligned, and I'm so curious and I want to know more and do more. I think that maybe the only common denominator is sort of to start something from nothing and go from this, as Peter Thiel calls it, from 0 to 1. So from to take that first step and get sort of the first paying customers. And a friend of mine, Belle, she's Brazilian. She calls it your overnight success. Whatever might look like, oh, now it's a nice success. It's basically a result of everything you've done in your life until that moment. And I think that sort of summarizes also my journey quite well, because I think probably I wouldn't be sitting here in Bangkok with HotelQuickly if I wouldn't have done maybe that publishing house back in Switzerland, or maybe I wouldn't have been elected Alumnus of the Year if I would have failed with that startup in Sweden. Who knows? So I'm really glad all the lessons I've learned, and having set sort of lessons, I would like to share some of these lessons or learnings that I've made over the past years, not only since graduating, but also before with you guys. And it's not only my learnings. I think it's also observations that I've made when talking to fellow entrepreneurs, to CEMSs, to mentors, to other people that inspire me, and I sort of try to summarize them. I don't think they're necessarily all interconnected, but I hope there's something that you guys can take away from this as well. And don't get me wrong, I don't have all the answers. This is my humble observation of what I've collected so far, but maybe I have an opinion about it, and then let me know. You have my Twitter handle there, so if you have any agreement or disagreement, then let me know. So I want to start with the very first one. So I think what you should figure out is what is important to you in life. What are you really passionate about? What are sort of your personal core values, if you can call it as such. And I think if you don't know what is really important to you, then there's something wrong, right? So you should stop and invest into figuring out what is really important to you. Is it maybe it's job related, right? So maybe it's your career, maybe it's the paycheck, maybe it's the embossed business card with the fancy company name that everybody knows. Maybe it's the independence or the fun, or maybe it's not even job related. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's religion, maybe it's your hobby. I think whatever it is, I think you will have to find it out, because and only then you can adjust sort of your priorities in life and try to go after what is really important to you, because otherwise you're going to waste time. I think the second point is very related also to the hobby. Even though I didn't dislike the job at Credit Suisse, I usually, and I got back at like 8, 9 o'clock in the evening from Credit Suisse, and then maybe had some dinner, and then was working for another 1 or 2 hours from like 10 to midnight or so on my own startups, and it never felt like working. I got back home and was like exhausted and had some dinner time, some time off to relax, and then was like fully energized and went to bed and was like, oh, it's midnight, I should go to bed. And it's not, it's never that I'm sort of exhausted and I want to go rest. And I think that's sort of the difference between if you're really passionate about something and you really like doing it, which probably is the case with your hobby, whatever hobby it might be, and what might be the case with your job, right? That you get exhausted and that like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you just like, get like your fourth coffee and check the time and it's like, oh, it could be 5 soon or 6, and then finally can go home. And I think if you're in sort of that situation, then you should change something. Change your job, talk to your boss, get other responsibilities, or maybe become an entrepreneur and do something that's really for yourself and that you can really be passionate about. I'm not saying you should turn your hobby into your job, but I think you should have the same passion about your job as you have about your hobby. And that's very related to the third point here. Life is short, don't waste it. And it's not the whole work-life balance doesn't exist to me. I think it's a big lie, to be honest. I think it's a work and life integration. And it's a large part, especially as a CEMS alumni. You have a great education. You probably have a really good job. You probably don't work 8 or 9 hours a day. You probably work 10, 11, 12 hours a day, and then soon it's like half or 50% of your day, and maybe you can do some work on the weekend. So why would you basically say or separate half of your life from the other half? Why don't you try to integrate it and really enjoy your life, and every single day, whether it's a Monday or a Saturday or a Sunday, is equally important and equally nice and enjoyable, and you can really grow and every day you enjoy it. What happens if tomorrow you get under the bus? Then you look back and like, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to do, and you waste sort of your time. I think that's what you should try to avoid. So then the next one is if you're an entrepreneur. So and I've taken this a little bit from the entrepreneurial perspective, because that's what I can relate to best. And I think the next, what are you in for, is important to know. Why do you do what you do? And it's probably also applicable to corporate jobs. Is it the money? Is it because you want to say you work for McKinsey, or you want to say you're a startup entrepreneur because it's cool to do that? Is it the independence, the freedom that you get from whatever you do, whether it's a startup or a job? Is it you want to start up? Is it the innovation, the disruption, to build something sustainable, to create jobs, to challenge the status quo? And with the challenge, is it also the fun to overcome these challenges and to learn and grow? I think it's really important, especially when you consider to launch your own startup, to know why do you do it, right? And there's the whole 4-hour work week lifestyle design approach, which here on the top right, it's a picture I took when I was in New Zealand a couple of months back. That's what is so valuable to me on a daily basis, to be able to work from wherever I am, whether I'm somewhere by the beach or at the office or in a cafe or in the lobby or traveling somewhere. I can do the same job and can basically be as productive as if I'm sitting at the office. Many people, I think, that launch a startup, they aspire to one day have this big bang, the Facebook IPO, this picture of the Facebook IPO day, and make billions in cash. And I think too many people actually are aspiring to start a startup in the hope and aspiration to one day have this big bang, and again they live sort of in the future. And I think if you don't enjoy the ride, you don't enjoy actually what you're doing and the startup that you're running, then again it's back to the previous point, you're wasting your time. So enjoy, because the likelihood that you will have a Facebook IPO is marginal. It might happen, but it's still more likely that it won't happen. So put all your time, all your effort into something that you truly enjoy, and then if the big bang and the big IPO happens, then take it not like any other day, but It will just be one step in your journey. The next one is then set yourself up for success. So if you looking back at sort of when Rocket Internet called me and offered me this position in Southeast Asia, I was I was kind of speechless and I didn't know what to say. And on the other hand, I was super happy that I didn't have a mortgage and a car and all these things that sort of put weight onto your life. And I think a lot of things, especially when you stay in one place for too long, and I think the CEMSs in general, they tend to travel more. They are a little bit more location independent than sort of the average society. But still, I saw it myself when I was living in Zurich for 3 or 4 years. Stuff accumulates because you get into this habit of like spending, because it's not much happening. At some point, you've seen all the new attractions in the city, and you start to go shopping, and because everybody does it, and you buy stuff, and then you have more and more stuff, and it just it clutters your life. And there's this trend of asset-light lifestyle, which sort of goes hand in hand with the sharing economy. And Uber is a great example of sharing economy. Airbnb as well. Make use of these platforms. You can rent any sports equipment. You don't need to buy it actually. And you can even rent clothes. You can rent handbags. You don't need to spend your money on buying this stuff and then you enjoy it for a couple of weeks and then thereafter it's just going to be waiting your life spent. So I'm not saying you should like save all your money. It's also good to of course treat yourself something, but don't spend for the sake of spending. Do something that adds value. I have like you have a sort of asset allocation where you put some money that hopefully will accumulate more money over time instead of spending on something that is perceived investment, like buying a car, for instance. It's a perceived investment, but it's not. It's spending money. Right? It's a waste of money. And the next one is also with set yourself up for success. Learn as much as possible about your target industry. You want to change jobs, whether you want to move from your current job into a different company, a different industry, or you want to launch your own startup. Before you actually do it, try to put as much time and effort into learning as much as possible about the industry. And that can come through like different channels, right? It can be that read literature, read blogs, for instance, or connect with industry professionals. Collect, maybe some CEMSI that credited with you that is already in that industry, and you can go treat that person for dinner and learn more about that industry. So it's learn as much about it. Don't accumulate stuff, and then you have the flexibility, mentally, emotionally, and physically as well to move to a different geography, to move to different industry, which then also leads over to my next point, which is ask yourself what's the worst that can happen. So once you decided, okay, I'm set up for success. I don't have a lot of clutter. I have some savings or investments at least, and you know a lot about your target industry where you want to launch a startup. Then what's holding you back? And many times I think it's like the fear of failing is holding you back from actually doing it. And the question is, if you put yourself into that state of failing, what does failing mean in the first place? And then how does it feel? How does it look like? Make it as visual as possible. So if, in my case, when I was deciding to quit Credit Suisse and to move to Asia to launch a food delivery business in Thailand, I mean, I said that to my boss at Credit Suisse, and he was like, okay, what's wrong with you? Why would you give up this job at Credit Suisse? It's a prestigious position, and B, why would you move to Thailand to start a food delivery company that has food everywhere? And how much would they even pay for it? It's such a cheap country. So everything was sort of telling me, or at least society or environment was telling me, it's maybe not the best idea to do it. But I just asked myself, okay, what's the worst that can happen? So if I would have moved to Asia and it would not have worked out, it would have failed, a few months later. I would have had a great summer in Asia. I would have been in Thailand. I would have had new learnings, probably learned more within, a few months than what I would have learned staying back at Credit Suisse. I probably could have gone back to Credit Suisse as well, because obviously the recruiting process is quite expensive. If they could just hire me back, why wouldn't they? So it's also with, how good are you good at what you're doing? And if you have a job right now, then you are probably good at what you're doing. Otherwise, you would have been fired already. So you probably could go back to your current employer unless you started competing business. So, that's it. Of course, you start a company that's competing with your employer, then probably the person or the company wouldn't necessarily be all too happy to take you back. But if not, then you have more experience. You have less urge probably to try something new. You tried it, you failed, whatever that means. But you could go back and take the same job probably again. I also have this low drawing on the bottom right of the chart. Where's your comfort zone? I think if you're too long in one place, and I don't mean physically or location-wise in one place, but also if you're in one place emotionally and mentally, but it's sort of in your job and you have sort of the same routine all the time, the comfort zone automatically gets smaller and smaller. And I believe it's important that you put yourself actively out of your comfort zone, and you do something that you probably previously never did. But it's small stuff, just try to challenge yourself, put yourself out there and do something you've never done before, so that you keep your comfort zone open. Because the next time a challenge comes along your way, that challenge probably looks a lot smaller than what it might look if you do the same routine over again. That's sort of related to the last one here, to reduce the risk of your next step. So really think of prepare, set yourself up for success, prepare as much as you can, and learn everything about it, and then take the step. Just do it and see what happens. Then once it happens, once you do it and you decide, okay, now I'm going to go for it, I'm going to start now and startup. What I've done in the first couple of startups was basically to start companies because we've been in the same place. We happened to be in the same place, same time, which was the reason why we became co-founders. And that might work out because that means probably you're friends, so you get along with these people. But I think more important is to actually look into the personalities and the experience as well. So you need to have people that are different than you, that complement you. And I have a picture here of my co-founding team at HotelQuickly with 5 co-founders. On the right, there is Thomas. He's actually also a CEMS alumni. He's with Prague and Rotterdam, and we studied together in Rotterdam. And we're kicking ass. Our group there was kicking ass literally. And I knew that I can work with him, and I knew that he's similar to me, but he's still different, and he has skills that I don't have. So he was the first one I reached out to when I decided, okay, I want to launch HotelQuickly. I was reaching out to him. He was running his business incubator in Czech Republic. So I was discussing the idea with him, and I managed to convince him to move to Asia. Within 2 weeks after the first call, he was moving in with me in Bangkok in my apartment. And again, back to the point, set yourself up for success and unclutter your life. So he managed to drop basically everything back in Europe, and within 2 weeks he was in Asia. Was the first full-time co-founder. Then the second on the right is Raphael. He was my MD of Food Panda in Vietnam, French guy, lived in Asia for many, many years in different countries. So he was more familiar with Asia than what I was a great sales guy. So I wanted to have him on board as sales, chief sales officer, and he's the CSO now. Michael, he was previously working with Thomas. And so Michael is the CTO, looking after the product tech. So also now the whole QA and our customer service team. So anything sort of product related is with Michael. And on the very left is Mario, with whom I studied in Switzerland in St. Gallen. Not a CEMSI, but he studied also banking and finance with me. Was in investment banking and then in private equity, and also a great guy, also a very business-driven guy. And I knew that I can get along with all of them. But for instance, Mario, he's M&A banker and private equity. He's really passionate about financial modeling and spreadsheets and all that. And I also studied banking and finance, and I also was working in a bank, but I could never develop the passion for financial modeling as he can. And why would I then sort of force this upon myself? If there's somebody who really enjoys doing it and is so much better at doing it than what I am, or obviously Rafa in sales or Michael in tech, it's areas. I was also CTO with Food Panda, so I could maybe do it, but why would I if there's somebody who's better at it and is enjoying it more? Why would I do it myself? So I think it's important that you sort of align 60-70%. You have the same vision, same values. You understand each other basically without saying anything. But then you complement each other with the remaining 30-40%, and you bring different skill sets to the table. And as in its entirety, basically, you have sort of a MECE co-founding team. So you have complementary skills, but it's also collectively exhaustive. So I think it's really important in terms of building a co-founding team, that can bring you from day one to maybe an exit at some point. Which then is also related to my next point, which is people first. And with people, I mean the team. So the team is important that you hire the right team members. So, get people with the same values and with the right skill sets. I personally, when I hire somebody, I check whether they have a degree, but I don't really care where the degree is from, unless it's a CEMS, of course. But sometimes, especially in the Asian universities, many of the Asian universities, I don't really know, whether the university in Indonesia is better than another one. I can't really judge that. But I see what they've done in the past. As I challenge them on the values, on sort of problem solving skills, and once they come on board, I empower them. If you hire somebody, for instance, a head of social media, that person obviously needs to be able to make decision as to what's the brand positioning, what's the tone of voice that it's going to use on social media, what kind of pictures and what kind of frequency post stuff. Get somebody and empower them, give them the freedom to execute, give them the freedom to make mistakes, and if they make mistakes, give them also the ability, to learn from it. Don't punish them, but they should learn from it. Of course, they shouldn't make the same mistake twice, but they should grow on their mistakes. Trust in their capabilities comes to sort of the experience that they bring along. Set measurable goals. We use the principle followed also by Google, or developed by Google actually, which is called OKRs, which is objective and key results. So objective is a big aspirational goal, and the key results are the measurable small steps towards that goal. And each one of us in the team has OKRs, including myself, including anyone in customer service. So like everybody in the whole hierarchy has OKRs, and we just measure what is the success against these OKRs. How do you achieve your OKRs, the goals? Do you overachieve them, underachieve them? If then, if we every quarter define together what are the OKRs, and then somebody achieves them within a month or achieves them by working 2 days a week, well, great, right? Then it's either my mistake because I didn't set the right OKRs with the person beforehand, or that person is just kicking ass, and then it's also, why should that person be allowed to work, only 3 or 4 days a week? And the last point here is also treat them with respect. I think everyone, even it's a new joiner or somebody with sort of a different skill set or lower in hierarchy, add something to the table. Otherwise, we wouldn't hire that person. In many large corporations, I believe the recent grads, the new joiners, are sort of or even interns, don't get that respect, and the sort of the opinion is not being valued, which I think is a very, very big mistake. And by doing this, I think it can even help you in terms of PR or also hiring strategy. So we've basically this principle how we run the company was also picked up by the media last year. So it's the Daily Mail wrote an article. Is this the greatest company in the world to work for? And you see it got like 7,200 shares and 250 comments. So it was like really popular because a lot of people are missing this basically at their employer, because it's a very different principle. But I think it's the only principle how you should actually treat people, because it's all mature people, and I think you should treat them this way, and not sort of force them with FaceTime and you have to be there at 8 or 9 in the morning and not leave before 6, because otherwise people will make jokes or frown for you and not doing your job or whatever it might be. So it's all results driven. And if somebody is working better from the beach or working better from a lobby or wherever, then I think they should be allowed to do so. So at 7th point out of 8, so bear with me, it's only 2 points left. So it is stop comparing yourself to others and don't listen to critics. And ironically, I posted here a picture of my Instagram account, which I then add to Facebook, and it's just, don't believe in social media. Obviously this picture is staged. I was traveling a month ago. I was traveling back from Europe to Asia. I had a miles upgrade because I had actually to attend a conference the next day, so I wanted to get some sleep. So I used my miles to upgrade. Had a cumbersome. I was mounting the GoPro in the front seat and then to take this picture and then caption back to work. And obviously, a lot of people are sort of jealous of that life, but it's staged, right? So don't believe in social media. Don't weigh yourself lower or sort of think others are more successful just because you go through your news feed and you see these kind of pictures. I think you should define for yourself what means success for yourself. You know, it's probably absolute measures, and it doesn't matter what the others do. It's not a relative comparison. No one defined what means success and what is failure. You have to be happy with your life yourself. So, you know, define it for yourself, and then work your way towards your goals, and take step by step, and take it humorously. If you see this stuff on Facebook, etc., you know, don't put value into it. And then the last point is never stop learning, and this is probably the most important lesson. So if any, you know, if you want to take away any of this this webinar, and I appreciate you dialing in, because that means you probably want to learn something. So never stop learning, and it is a lifelong learning. And you know, the universities proclaim this. You know, go back to university, go for some executive education. You can do that. I think that's definitely you know, good reason to do so. But I think also life teaches so many lessons, and if you pay attention, then I think you will grow every day by just, you know, observing others, and by observing yourself, how you deal with certain situations. And I think, yeah, if you haven't failed a lot, you're probably also not going to succeed a lot either. So, you know, it's about trying and failing, learning, getting up and trying again, and do better. On the surface, you know, on the top right, you probably notice. You know, it always looks like, you know, it's a social media thing again. It looks like it's one straight line, and people go from nothing to successful, but it's a constant struggle, and it's always an uphill battle. And I think you just have to fight day by day, and be determined and persistent to reach sort of you know, your success, whatever you define for yourself what that means. And then you will be. And I think you will find yourself in a happier place if you don't take sort of the relative route, but you will define for yourself. And you just try to put yourself out there, out of the comfort zone, and strive towards that greater goal that you've set for yourself. So that's what I have for you today. And I think we would move over now to some Q&A. We have about 12 minutes left, I believe. And I'm going to check now whether I have some tweets. And if you haven't you know, sent some questions yet, then do so. So here again, you have my Twitter handle. So feel free to just send me a message. Or Cristiano, I think you're also gonna retweet if I'm not mistaken. So I'll just see whether I have something in my notifications. All right, so I see 3 questions so far. So the first question is, no, it's not a question. Okay, I see that's okay, here's a question. How do you set your company culture? What is my role? Okay, so within the company, I'm looking after marketing. So initially, I've been looking after operations. I'm co-founder, COO/CMO. So I'm also looking after marketing, which entails also PR, social media, performance marketing, partnership marketing. So any of these areas, and I'm chairman as well. So I'm looking basically. I have 3 roles. So the first role is my functional role, which is now these days is mostly marketing related. So setting sort of the marketing strategy, work with teams in different countries, get, you know, the right people to execute on the marketing strategy in the different countries, and work with the team on achieving sort of our department goals. So we have the OKRs, we have company KPIs, we have then the functional KPIs, so for marketing in that sense, and then every person has OKRs, and these OKRs should in sum then contribute to my department, which is marketing, to achieve the goals they've set at the beginning of the quarter. And then every department has also the different KPIs in total should also lead to the company to hit the targets. So we break down from the company, and I will break it down all the way to the individual level. So that's a functional responsibility. Then sort of also functional, but a little different, is the co-founder responsibility. And with co-founder responsibility comes setting the strategy, defining the values, defining basically when to raise money, how to raise money, and you know, to raise money in general, and how to spend it again. Then, you know, the strategy in terms of like expansion, new product features, all these elements more on the strategic level, which is in a very strong and close collaboration with my co-founders. And then the third role is the geographical supervision. So I'm also looking after the expansion to Australia and New Zealand. I'm officially based in Sydney, but you know, I'm sort of floating around a little bit, but sort of I have oversight also over the campus in Australia and New Zealand. And so the other co-founders of the CSO, Raphael, is based in Hong Kong. He's looking after the Chinese-speaking countries. The CEO, Thomas, is based in Singapore, is looking after Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And Mario, the CFO, and Michael, the CTO, are based in Bangkok, and they look after sort of the bordering countries of Thailand and Thailand itself. So it's it's a collective effort, the 5 co-founders, to build the company. But then we have the individual responsibility for the function and the geographies. I hope that answers the question. Let's see. Okay, I have a direct tweet from Yuri. Actually, Yuri, a very good friend of mine, also from Rotterdam. So he's asking, how did you manage to balance your venture's speed of growth while at the same time flooding in over ambition? Yeah, so that's a little bit of the challenge I think with because I've been with Rocket and we hire quite some people from Rocket Internet as country managers, and in Rocket they have very, very deep pockets, and basically you have to try as hard as possible to hit your given sort of the business plan, and you just spend money. You spend money a lot on marketing. Your product usually is lagging behind, and you invest a lot into marketing. Try to build up the market. And if you're sort of bootstrapped or you don't have that much funding, we raised $5.5 million, which is okay, but it's not a lot of money. You have to be very careful where to spend the money. Otherwise, you burn through $1 million or $2 million very quickly, especially if you're in 16 different countries. It's then broken down per country, per month, etc. It's not much money anymore. And if you're not careful where to spend the money, that's very tricky. I think one way to do it is to have your financial model, to project what is sort of the cost growth versus the revenue growth. And if you're sort of behind in terms of revenue, that you adjust also the burn rate. Because otherwise, if you keep your costs up, but then the conversion is not as good, you don't get revenues, then your lifeline will get a lot shorter because you don't get the revenues that you expected to sort of subsidize your life. So that's one way, just to pay very close attention to the cost level as well as the revenues, and then constantly adjust, and then you need to raise money. So if for instance you would spend more and get less, then try to raise more money. If there's a case, then you will be able to pick up more money. But it's important not to get over ambitious. Yeah. Okay, let's see whether there's other questions. Okay, do you have any advice for CEMS and the CEMS entrepreneurs how to teach more entrepreneurial skills in the MIN? Well, actually, I myself have taught a skills seminar twice already on entrepreneurship, and we were basically teaching the Lean Canvas principle and how to start basically, or how to get from an idea or validate sort of the idea to see whether that could potentially be a profitable idea and whether you could build a business around it. I think because it's a skills seminar, it's obviously not a fixed component in a curriculum, but it could become one, right? So I think I don't know the curriculum of all the different universities, and I know that, for instance, Rotterdam, there were courses on entrepreneurship as well, which I think was really good. But I think to bring sort of entrepreneurs into the CEMS curriculum to teach how they did it, or maybe along or a certain a CFO could come and say, okay, this is how you set up the accounting for a startup, or how to set up sort of the legal infrastructure and which jurisdictions maybe make more sense, etc. Then maybe a tech co-founder could come in and talk about what is important when finding a CTO, or how to build a product, lean and the whole lean startup methodology. And then a CMO could come in and talk about how to acquire customers as a startup and what are sort of the growth hacks these days. So I think this could be a very interesting curriculum, I guess. I would love to attend one of these. So I think that's maybe something that could be established. I think in general also the whole interaction with CEMS entrepreneurs, that could help, and if that platform gets fostered also as an interaction tool between students and alumni and among our alumni as well, that are considering to take that step into entrepreneurship and starting a startup, that could also be helpful. And I think that's what actually is the most valuable part to me in CEMS, was the network. And I'm still in touch with my friends from CEMS, especially from Rotterdam. And they helped me a lot in over the past years with like giving me advice and challenge my ideas, and we have a frequent interaction. And also now Thomas, one of my co-founders, is also, he started with me in Rotterdam. So it's without CEMS, I wouldn't have found my co-founder. So I think it's a pool of really, really talented people, and whoever is still at university and still in CEMS right now, foster these relationships and make most use of meeting so many people from so many different places in the world, because it will be a lot harder after you graduate to build up your network so quickly. So I think that's something that is invaluable, and to anyone that wants to become an entrepreneur, look into which of your CEMS already is entrepreneur and just reach out and have a chat. That was a long answer to a short question. Let's see where there's another question. Okay. So Federica actually, she was also with us last summer, and she's now back in St. Petersburg as a student. She's asking, could you explain peer relations, self-evaluation, and objective achievements to structure HR KPIs? Okay. So yeah, we have what we establish is a 360-degree feedback mechanism. So we are collecting feedback from everyone for ourselves. That was actually established after Federica left, but now we do this across the company. We then also set for your own OKRs. So every quarter, when the quarter comes to an end, each one of us reviews the goal achievements, and it's between a 0 and a 1. And 1 means you have achieved it 100%, and 0 means you haven't even touched it. And ideally, on an OKR, you should be on 65%. According to Google, 65%. Because if you hit it with a 1, so 100%, then you didn't set the goal ambitious enough. Then you should not been, you didn't want to really challenge yourself. If it's lower than that, probably you didn't put enough effort into it. But a 65% according to Google is sort of the ideal. And we try to push to that. And then, after that, I, as a sort of line manager, would review my teammates' OKR review as well, would also rate it, and then we have a discussion around, why is it's maybe on 0.5 or why is it on 0.9, and then develop sort of together the strategy for the next quarter and define the next OKRs for the next quarter. And that's been, that worked quite well in the past, because then it's a conversation. It's not I just rate whatever output comes from a certain person, but we take into consideration what were the circumstances and why did someone maybe outperform others or achieved better results than the previous quarter, or the other way around. And we can sort of address these areas and then work together on improving and getting better. I hope that I can answer your question. We have maybe time for one more question.
Dear Christian.
Okay, I don't think we have time for another question.
I know that there are a couple of more questions, Christian, and I am very sure that a lot of our students and alumni and participants in this webinar would love to hear more answers from you. But we're close to the end of the webinar. And of course, I'm very happy because you have agreed with us at the beginning that if there would be more questions that you could not answer during the webinar, that you would be willing to actually answer them afterwards. So we will compile these questions for you, and you will potentially receive some more via Twitter. We will make sure that everyone will receive the answers. We make a post of the webinar again on our CEMS.org website. So thank you very much, Christian. I've learned a lot. I think it's very exciting, the path that you have taken. I know that we have quite some students and alumni who are thinking of this path and might have gotten some advice or inspiration from you, so they will take a next step. So I think we can close off this webinar, and I just want to thank all the organizers, specifically the student board, the CEMS Alumni Relations team, Cristiano, and of course you as chair, that you spend your valuable time with us. We know how busy you are. Thank you very much. So I would
Thank you
like
very
to
much for
close
having
this
me.
webinar.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks a lot, Wieteke, and thanks a lot, CEMS, for having me.
And thanks all of the participants. We hope you learned a lot today. We are sure that we will have more of these webinars coming, and next year there will be a second Global Alumni Week. This year there are many events planned, as I said, 22. So reach out to us and enjoy the events together with alumni. Meet a lot of them, learn from each other, build businesses together. We hope you all benefit from CEMS. Thank you.